The portrait of Martha Graham is a sculpture located at the Crystal Bridges Museum. It is in the Contemporary Art Gallery. The sculpture is made out of oil, wood, pencil, and plaster. It was made in the year of 1977 by Marisol, a Latin artist who was in her late 40s. At that time, she had just changed the way that she was making sculptures of people. Rather than using casts of her own face as part of her sculpture, she began a series of roughly carved portraits of older artists whom she admired, and this sculpture was one of them. This is also another sculpture that Marisol made in the same time period. The Martha Graham portrait was created to commemorate the life of the legendary dancer and choreographer Martha Graham. She is known as the Mother of Dance. Martha Graham lived until she was almost 100, and she invented her own style of dance, which laid the foundation for dance in general. Her form of technique is referred to as Graham, and it is still widely practiced and respected today. This is the signage next to the sculpture. Graham danced until her 60s and choreographed up until the day of her death. Her body forced her to have to stop performing due to arthritis. She fell into a deep depression at that time in her life. This sculpture interprets those years of her life when she had to quit performing due to arthritis. She is depicted as aged and unhappy. Her hands are bound to illustrate the arthritis that kept her from dancing and the trapped feeling she must have been dealing with at that time in her life. The sculpture of the hands of Martha Graham, knotted in a string, sit in front of the base of the sculpture. Marisol actually knotted her own hands with string before casting them and attaching them to the piece. When creating this piece of art, Marisol took a biographical approach to express the life and personality of Martha Graham. Three-dimensional sculpture depicts a romanticized and abstract style. The artist created the sculpture to depict Martha Graham in an emotional way to show her state of being. Yet the sculpture also conveys the essence of Graham and is not directly representational of her. The composition of the sculpture, which is explained in the signage next to the sculpture in the museum. But the composition is to portray an icon in the art industry of the 1960s in a way that shows her struggle and her inward feelings that she was dealing with at this time. The choice of medium is a large piece of square wood that has been carved into a head with a wooden torso sitting on a chair. The piece stands about 4 feet tall and 2 feet wide. Bronze is the only color used on the sculpture, otherwise the natural colors of the wood are left. This piece is from the time period of pop art, op art, minimalism, and conceptualism, which lasted from about 1952 to 1989. This piece of art was also created at that same time period. Imagery of art during the same time period that the sculpture was created was influenced by the pervasiveness of media within society. The portrayal of everyday life through simple, frank art was also a popular aspect of this time period. Here's also another piece of art. Artists gave a great deal of focus to the concept of the art and believed it was theoretically more important than the work itself. Art was kept simple but abstract. And here's another piece. There was use of bright colors, unique shapes, and unordinary visuals. Black Venus is a sculpture made in the same time period as Marisol's portrait of Martha Graham. Both Black Venus and the Martha Graham sculpture are representational of a woman and are very abstract. They illustrate personality and a feeling, yet at the same time give the viewer an idea of how that woman looked. Black Venus is by Nikki de Saint Phalle and was created in 1967. This piece resembles a historical sculpture called Venus of Willendorf, made in 21,000 BC. I chose this Martha Graham artwork because I love dance and dance history. My personal dance background has been greatly influenced by Martha Graham's technique, and dance in general has been extremely influenced by her style. I feel like this sculpture creatively tells a story and really captures the emotions and feelings Martha Graham was going through at that time in her life. Also, the sculpture is made from an unlikely medium. Marisol did not try to mask the medium that she used. She left it very raw, yet at the same time was able to make the face of Martha Graham realistic. Thank you guys, and here are my sources.